Meltdown presents The Disney Click with Rick and Briers. This podcast is sponsored by Meltdown Comics and Collectibles in Hollywood, California. Find Meltdown on meltcomics.com. Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Disney Click with your hosts.
You say it so formally. I'm Rick.
I have a performance background. I apologize, Rick. Briers, by the way, the second host.
Throwing Briers off here. I'm sorry, my fellow co-host.
I'm going to take it as a compliment.
Okay.
I don't know if you meant it as one, but yeah, regardless.
It was a lovely intro.
But now you're backpedaling.
We're friends now.
Digging a hole.
So we're cash.
Oh,
yeah.
You abbreviated. You did an abbrev.
Oh boy, that sounded terrible.
I like it.
Okay.
Our lineup for this week. I was going to try to abbreviate it, but then it wouldn't make sense. Yeah, our LU is.
Let's just stop this now.
Our T5. That's our top 5. Is superhero or villain performances in the Marvel universe.
This is not the actual character. This is the actor playing the role.
Yeah. So being drawn to a villain or superhero based on the performance in the movie,
right,
versus being like, I like Wolverine, saying, no, I like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
Right,
and
right.
that's the top
and
5.
in doing this, there were some interesting things I came across about me and my feelings towards the Marvel universe. So maybe I'll share a little bit with those as I do the list. Yeah, I don't know. It was,
and I have one I think you're going to give me a hard time over, but I don't care.
I look forward to it.
And I'll defend it.
What else do we have?
We also have a little Disney history, a really interesting story in the Pixar universe, and we're calling it the War of the Ant films, and it's kind of the backstory behind Ants and A Bug's Life. And Ants is a DreamWorks film, for those that are not familiar.
This is near and dear to Briers' heart. She's talked about this quite a bit off the air, and I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to say and hearing a little bit of the story of these two films that are I think widely remembered, but perhaps for different things or different reasons. I don't know.
And people get them confused that aren't informed,
right,
I think, or as passionate about Disney or DreamWorks or children's films.
Right.
They get they mix them up. So we're gonna set the record straight.
Right. I know people
I can
probably
see
do.
Why.
But...
I mean, they're very similar films, and we're gonna learn a little bit of the mysterious or not so mysterious, history of why they're so similar.
Right.
It might be less happenstance than we think.
Okay.
To be continued.
There's a lot of implications there.
And then, yes, there are. And then we'll wrap things up with a little discussion, a look at specifically Disney attractions that were turned into movies. So they started out as attractions, and then the movie gods stepped in and wanted to make it into a movie, and we'll kind of, discuss if we think the film was a success or not, and if it needed to be made in the first place.
Right. Yeah, I think this is a fun topic for me because I think the attractions themselves are very cinematic, so it's always exciting when they are brought to life on the big screen with a big or not so big budget, and with
growing budget.
Yeah, mixed degrees of success, and development is tough, as you'll see. So that's going to be an interesting topic, I think, at the end of this podcast. So
yeah,
should we get into it?
Let's do it.
And now, the Disney List.
Okay, our top 5 this week is top 5 superhero or villain performances in the Marvel universe. So specifically, the actors that brought these characters to life, and that's who we're ranking, really. It's the actor portraying the character. The actor's coming first.
Right. And I think this is Briers will have an interesting take on this because she is a professionally trained actor, and I think she has a very strong opinion.
Performances,
we're going to keep this to the performance within the movie, and it, maybe these actors have not had great roles outside of the Marvel universe. I don't know. You know, everybody has a stinker here and there, right? I mean, there's very few actors that have that role that they say, oh, not so good.
It's interesting you say that because I immediately think the more recent films, like the Avengers and things like that, they're casting big names coming into it, or they're immediately turned into one. Like every single Avenger has a crazy, impressive resume, or has become big because of it, like Thor,
right?
You know, like
Chris
Hemsworth,
right.
yeah. And you look back at some of the older films, and you don't see as much like aggressive star power. I don't know.
I think this might be my thinking. It's hard for me to get into the mind of the actors who are being offered these roles, but most of them really covet these roles because they know it's a launching pad for their future. Now, there are some like Joaquin Phoenix who turned down Doctor Strange before Benedict Cumberbatch. So there are those that I'm sure
I did not know that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's
Joaquin
interesting.
Phoenix had an offer in. I think it's confirmed. I
couldn't see anyone except Benedict.
Well, he said a lot of people were pushing for him anyway, but Joaquin Phoenix was supposedly offered, and he declined. Some say that he just didn't want the commitment of being in the Marvel universe and all those movies, and they really want you for all that. So there are those who don't want to be these actors.
Some see it as selling out. I think some
actors,
he seems
he seems like a guy who might feel that way. I don't know that's how he felt, but it seems like a guy who might have that mentality about it. But I don't know.
He's a unique
he's a great actor. I think he's a wonderful actor, and I think he would have been really good. But admittedly, I'm happy that Benedict Cumberbatch is doing Doctor Strange.
And I'm excited about Rachel McAdams.
Right,
she'd probably be on the list, but
so I don't want to get in. There's a couple thoughts that I have on this list, but I think I'm gonna save it if not for the end, somewhere in the middle, because I don't want to spoil my list early on. Let's go to number 5. Would you like to start, or would you want me to start?
Sure, I'll start.
Okay,
because
I'm trying to be chivalrous here.
Oh, that's so unexpected. Thank you.
Oh God! All right.
My number 5 comes from a film a lot of people might not like, or might not be as big a fans of. Just know I'm gonna get grief for this, but I don't care.
I'm warming up my voice here.
Yeah. Do some vocal warm ups. That is Chris Evans, not as Captain America, but
Torch?
as Johnny Storm, the Human Torch.
Wow.
I first of all, I want to say, full disclosure, I'm not ashamed of it. I really like the first Fantastic Four film. I mean, I didn't like Silver Surfer, the second one. But I thought the first one, it's very campy. It knows it's campy. It was before, I think, the superhero films had taken a more it's not like artistic turn, or had become.
I think it was after the first X-Men, right? Which I can't remember.
2005.
Yeah, that had to be after the first X-Men.
X-Men was 2003,
okay.
I believe. So yes, yeah.
Because first X-Men set the tone. Close. So
yeah, but still if you look back, a little cheesier than they are now.
Yeah.
But Fantastic Four takes the cake, I think, in that. But I as Captain America, I find him, and I think the character of Captain America is a little bit boring, and very good to look at. Great body of work,
right.
No pun intended, or pun intended, either way. But yeah, as Captain America, he's a little bit, I'm standing here, I'm carrying a shield. This is me, fabulous. But as Johnny, he was so charming in that movie, and so funny in all his scenes, and so good at playing that like cocky playboy and messing with the other characters. And he was the only one excited about his powers, and it just made it really fun.
Maybe I'm letting the film, which I thought was highly mediocre, cloud my judgment.
Yeah.
I did like Chris Evans' performance as Johnny Storm, so
you agree?
Human Torch. Well, I like it. He's Human Torch is not in my top 5, but I did like him.
I did like him. I'm not going off how much I really like him.
Right, but I think that stopped me from thinking about him
because you're not that into the character.
I grew up, reading some Fantastic Four and liking the Human Torch. The film to me compared to what we have today, just feel that the Fantastic Four just seems like, it just seems slight.
I just don't think there are that many other great comedic performances of this. They tend to take on the more dramatic and serious and look at me with my powers. I don't know. He just really captured a lot of comedic fun and that spirit. And all his scenes are so funny. I don't know.
So I'll give you credit that I don't think the choice of the Human Torch. I like when you think out of the box and do that. So that's cool. But the movie itself,
I'm not going up there. I'm not saying I'm not ranking the movie.
Right. No, I understand that.
It could still make my top 5. I really like it. I don't know.
That's okay.
It's cheesy, but it's just
we're in a different age than what the first Fantastic Four was and the Silver Surfer obviously was. Mm-hmm. So I understand that.
For sure.
Well, my number 5 is I'm getting rid of an obvious one right off the bat.
Getting rid of
because I think this is the one that everybody would expect from a list, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's on your list. Maybe he's not, but it's Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man.
Oh, okay.
He's number 5. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was very obvious to me. He deserves like
but
a
don't
pedestal.
Dismiss it. He's on your top 5.
No. I feel like he embodies Tony Stark. It's hard to imagine another Tony Stark.
1000%.
His style, his acting style fits everything that the character of Tony Stark is. I don't know if I could have imagined it before I saw him on screen, but once I saw him in the first Iron Man, I'm like, yes. And he's largely responsible. I'm not the only one. I'm John Favreau, and the writers have a lot to do with it, but and the people at Marvel, but he is in large part responsible for us taking superheroes seriously. Like this Marvel Cinematic Universe rests largely. There's no other actor more than Robert Downey Jr. who's the universe rests on his shoulders. Mm-hmm. Like he's the biggest part.
But yet, he's your number 5.
He is my number 5 because I'm giving him a lot of credit for that. There's other things that might be a little bit more near and dear to me.
Yeah,
their performances, and that's why he's number 5. But I couldn't do a top 5 list
without having
Iron Man on there. His performance as Iron Man. So
and I would say too, it's just interesting to look at his career and how Iron Man gave him a total career resurgence.
Right.
He went from he had his past troubles, and he had been really into TV, and like Ally McBeal was big for him and was kind of like, who is this actor?
Right.
And I was, still young enough when Iron Man came out that I knew who he was from his rap sheet, and didn't really know he was that good of an actor. And he's since done, Sherlock Holmes and probably forgetting other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting how Iron Man saved him.
I had a friend who always talked about how great of an actor my friend was an actor as well, is an actor as well, or it's not anymore, but and he always talked how much he respected him. And not that I didn't think he was a good actor, I just didn't get it until I saw Iron Man, and he started given the opportunity.
Yeah, to show what he can do.
So anyway, I don't want to say on to. I thought that was the obvious one of the bunch, but well deserved, and he could be higher than 5. But there's other guys that I think I have just a softer spot for, and that's the thing. So you're number 4.
My number 4 is my only villain. I thought I might have some more, but this is it. But he plays a villain so well that you like him, and that is Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Did I steal one of yours?
No, you did not steal. I thought that was I thought that was the obvious villain choice.
Oh, okay.
I thought about him.
I mean, he's so interesting as a villain, and it's very rare that you want the villain to be in more scenes, or you're just as into the villain scenes.
People were disappointed when he wasn't in Age of Ultron. I think
the most recent.
Yeah,
Avengers,
they would have liked him to be in that.
Yeah, because he was in both Thors, and then he was the
Avengers.
villain in the Avengers.
Right. I think if there's any villain that's pointed to actor as a villain, I think he's the one that people point. That's a good villain. That's a great actor. Doing a good villain.
He's at the end of the day an incredible actor.
Right.
And I don't know if he had done. I mean, I think he'd done some things, but he definitely went into like name recognition, celebrity status territory from Thor, and then has now used that to he's parlaying it into careers and the new Crimson Peak. Is he in some car commercials?
He's in a Jaguar commercial where there's a bunch of British guys who play villains.
I love that commercial.
He's one of the guys in that.
Oh yeah, that's a great commercial.
Yeah. I don't know if it airs. It probably doesn't air anymore.
The Brits do all the.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true because they're so good at it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I'm looking forward to Crimson.
Benedict Cumberbatch in Star Trek.
Right. I'm looking forward to Crimson Peak in large part. I mean, I'm looking forward to it for a lot of reasons, but he's one of the reasons why I know it's going to be good.
Myself,
okay. All right.
To each their
You're
own.
leaning towards you really love the actresses, right?
That's what I look to for inspiration and to study.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And I will say, I feel this is a good time to mention this. Something that it could be me, it could be my feelings towards superheroes and villains, it could be what Marvel is doing, but I don't have any female actresses on my list. Which
and
which is kind of and there's a lot of actresses I admire, and there just was no one I could put on this. There's a couple who I thought about, but nobody who I really felt could crack the top five for me.
That's really interesting you say that.
Do you have any?
Brings up. I have two.
Okay.
But I definitely they're the only two,
okay.
and I would have loved to have had 3 or 4,
right?
And been
Sure.
repping them proudly, but I kind of felt the need, but I also my number one was like my girl
right.
from a while back.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's really interesting. There have not been enough female, and I don't know if
right.
There've been some, but does that say that the ones that have happened haven't been good enough? Or
I think they've been.
The men have been the leading roles. Fine.
I'm afraid to say. I'm going to say, and you don't have to comment if it's one of yours. But Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson's a perfect example. Somebody who
I don't like her.
Okay, somebody who you don't like her as an actress, you don't know her as a person. So
yeah.
Okay. I think that while she's good enough as Black Widow, she's fine. I think I kind of feel that there's a lot of other actresses that could have easily stepped into that role.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
she didn't take that role and make it her own, and that's a big qualification on this list.
I feel like she was Scarlett Johansson playing Black Widow, and it's like her name. Her name should always pop up on the screen when she's there, because it's just, hey, I'm Scarlett.
Right.
Did you know my name? I'm Scarlett.
Yes.
It's like,
so we talked a bit about this last week about her as the snake in the Jungle Book.
Yes,
It's on. I think she's a good actress, by the way. I just
fine. I'm like lukewarm.
Right.
It's like,
but
I don't dislike her, but I'm not like Jessica Chastain, clamoring to see a movie that she's in. Yeah.
Right. So
your
my number 4 is a little bit of a slightly more obscure one. It's Evan Peters as Quicksilver in X-Men Days of Future Past. It's a little bit controversial because there are 2 Quicksilvers. There's a Quicksilver in Days of Future Past, and there's a Quicksilver in Avengers Age of Ultron.
Okay.
I really liked the actor in Days of Future Past. He's not in the movie a whole lot, but he brings such attitude. He's funny. He's kind of not smarmy exactly. He's just so cocky, but he gets the job done. And there's that scene in the Pentagon where he goes in the kitchen or whatever and has everybody changes people's guns and puts the bullets here and then slips on the guard's hat, and he does it with an attitude. He's from I first remembered him from the first season of American Horror Story, which I haven't seen any subsequent seasons, but he was really good in that, I thought. And it just occurred to me upon doing the research and trying to decide that this is the same guy, and he just think
you didn't know until you were doing the research.
Yeah, I didn't know that he
really
was
vanished into the roles.
Yeah, it just kind of occurred to me. I'm like, this is the same guy.
That's a good actor,
I really like, and I'm not sure. I'm confused whether it was the script, the scenes, but I think with a lot of other actors, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as I did. So I give him a lot of credit, and he really stood out in all the superhero Marvel movies that I've seen.
Happening in the X-Men films.
Yeah,
There's
is
so many characters,
and he's probably his screen time is fairly tiny in that movie. But I really was taken by his performance. I liked it a lot better than Aaron Johnson in I hope I have the actor's name right, as Quicksilver in Age of Ultron.
Oh yeah.
I just think maybe he was better written, but I just thought he played it better with more humor, and he did a nice job. So he gets a spot on my list. He might be a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you're number 3.
My number 3, one for the girls, and that is Zoe Saldana as Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy.
She was one of the ones who had consideration for me to go on my list.
And I think it speaks to what we were saying. It's that she was in a film that came out last year. So I'm kind of saying, like a fingers crossed thing. Maybe there's a tide turning and they're going to start to have better roles for females. But I will say I heard an interview or read somewhere that when she was offered the part, I think she initially turned it down, and then she accepted it under the stipulation that they would rewrite Gamora as a larger role and as less needing help and more as really helping the aid and being just as equal parts to the guys.
They really that's one of the great things about that movie.
And that's the thing.
They're all equal.
Her part is just as significant, and that's in thanks to Zoe, it sounds like.
Right.
Maybe she's tooting her. I believe her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the movie is one of my absolute favorite movies.
Yes.
And one of the reasons is because all the characters, although you don't hear as much about their backstories as you do with Star-Lord and whatever.
Mm-hmm. But you get hers.
You get it
with
you
her
get a
whole
sense.
adopted, messed up
right.
family
I think
situation.
I think there's even more there that they're not able to give.
Yeah, but I think
you still get a sense of it.
And they can definitely expound upon that.
And it's because of her performance.
Future. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's hard because I often not dislike her, but have jealousy issues because she has gotten to be in so many films that are, I mean, she's gotten to be in Avatar, Star Trek, and Guardians of the Galaxy. It's hard to not have like a little envy issue, but I let that go.
I'm going to share something with you about Briers. Is that she likes a lot of like actors, especially actresses out there, but there is this envy, jealousy thing comes up a little bit that she, it's not fair that she gets all these great roles, and it clouds her view of them a little bit. She has a good humor about it. She knows it.
I'm very aware.
I've heard that line from many times.
There's specifically one actress we don't need to talk about because it'll just open up a can of worms.
Well, just say it, but then we can move on. Who's the?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay.
I have issue with.
Okay, yeah, we're not going to go there.
She has a lot of fans.
We don't have 2 hours
to
of show
say,
to talk about here.
But Zoe,
right.
I think she, and I remember when I first saw the posters, I was like, oh, she gets to be in another superhero. Like, what? Like, this isn't fair. But I'm going to give her credit. She did the part so much justice, brought so much to Gamora, and then hearing that she influenced the character being the strong female and involved role that she was, major props. So,
right. Okay.
Girl power.
All right. Good. I like that
number
pick.
3.
I totally like that pick. That she was just left off, but another X-Men, Ian McKellen, as Magneto. He's a great actor. Period. And he pulled off Magneto with perfection to me.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. I think he's like the anti-action hero, superhero. He obviously isn't going around kicking butt and karate chopping and that sort of thing. But he says each of his lines with such steely determination, or just he has a cause and he's going to stick to it. There's a scene in the first X-Men where he's talking to Charles Xavier, Patrick Stewart, and saying, that's the difference between you and me. I'm willing to kill people for my cause. That sort of general feeling, and you just know that like
he would.
Yeah.
Any scene he's in those movies, like you're saying,
so
he doesn't
great.
do much actual harm, unless he like lifts someone up and like strangles them a little because of their blood.
But he's a superhero, and he makes you believe it.
Oh yeah. When he's in jail and breaks out, and he's just sitting there like playing chess, and then his guy comes to get him. Oh,
just like eerily calm and creepy.
X-Men, all the X-Men.
I
could do a whole list. I'm a big X-Men fan.
Obviously, I have a big. I enjoy the first couple X-Men movies, and I like the first. Oh, I don't like the third.
Set the bar.
I don't like the third one.
The third had
the Last
some
Stand's
problems.
Not good. Last Stand, but I like the First Class. I like First Class, and so. But that's a different story here.
I like the old cast.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, we're gonna get into that.
Because Jennifer Lawrence is in the new cast. That's not why.
Let it go.
Well,
okay.
I can't.
All right, you're number 3.
Number
2. I'm sorry, you're on 2.
Hit me.
You went first.
You're just
I apologize.
shaving off my no.
No, I'm giving you an extra one.
My number 2 is another from Guardians, and that is Chris Pratt as Peter Quill. And he could have been my number 1. I was torn, but
that was my other one. Obvious
left
one.
Off.
Well,
he was like, as soon as I thought, I was like, he will be in my top 5.
I don't want to steal your thunder on this, but there's number 2 is you go on and I'll get into my number 2.
Okay.
Quickly thereafter, but
okay.
yeah. So Star-Lord.
Yeah,
Chris Pratt.
I mean,
great choice, by the way.
Thank you. I went into the Guardians film not very familiar with the comic book. And he brought so much to this character, brought him fully to life. And, I guess I knew Chris Pratt from Parks and Recreation, and, he was on Everwood back in the day, but he really just fully inhabited the character. And I almost now can't really separate Star-Lord and Chris Pratt. I don't know if that's good or bad, but he's just so fully inhabited this character of kind of similar to Johnny Storm in that, like, playboy, really cocky, has so many great lines where they never remember that he's Star-Lord or his name. But he just made that movie. And also what you were saying, talking about Quicksilver and how, someone making the character so themselves that you don't know if anyone else could have done it as well. I don't know if anyone else could have played Peter Quill as well. I don't know. I would be interested to see if the movie would be as good without him.
I said about Iron Man. But I said about Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, okay. Well,
but
I
agree
said
with you.
too
I
in
might have
terms
said
of
that.
like the writing and how they brought so much.
But I agree with you, by the way. I agree, totally agree with you.
I don't think it would have been the same film. I mean,
Right.
I think he really carried it on his shoulders. He was the leading man.
Well, let me tell you my number 2 are the two Chris's. I cheated a little bit. Cheating time. Chris Pratt. I had a hard time deciding between Chris Pratt and Chris Evans as Captain America.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You did two in one?
Well, they're both.
This is entirely illegal.
Did I put Chris Hemsworth in there? Did I put? He could have been another Chris. I didn't say him, so I'm just. So
you're defending it by saying I only did 2, not 3.
Yeah,
That's your defense.
I couldn't say.
You picked 6. He picked 6 this week, so in a future week, I get to pick 6.
You already did that with the D23 wrap up, Toy Story Land and Star Wars Land. So consider this my.
They were a single announcement. Were these guys in the same movie?
Yes, they have been in the same movie.
Which one?
Not yet. They're going to be in the same movie someday.
Burn. They have not been in the same movie. And wait, which one?
They're both in the Marvel
Universe.
To be in,
so all of these teams are in the Marvel. That means
they're going to be
Infinity
6, War.
For number 5, you could be like, my 6 favorite people for number 5 are.
I'm betting they're going to be in Infinity War.
So you don't even know if they're going to be in the same movie. Oh, so much speculation.
I don't know.
Because they share a name. Continue. I'll let you cheat away.
Star Wars Land and Toy Story Land.
Same announcement. Being built at the same time. Same park.
Oh, she's getting heated. She doesn't like this. We already talked about Chris Pratt. Love Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. I think I agree everything you said. Chris Evans, I think is a little bit.
This is as Captain America.
Captain America.
Okay.
I think he's a little bit. I think people like him. I think he gets a lot, but I don't think people talk about him as an actor within the role. I don't think it's such an easy role. He doesn't come across to me as boring and dull. I think he's kind of the stoic leader and keeps it together in the Avengers. I think what he does is not so easy to do. He's more than good looking. He has a sense of charm about him. He's kind of got that cheesy nature, bored out of his mind. I have to do these silly things during World War II kind of guy about him, but when he wants to be doing some more. I don't think these are such easy things to pull off for an actor. And I give Chris Evans a lot of credit for this. So this is my way of saying, like, I appreciate you, Chris Evans, even if Briers does not.
Only enough to make you half of my number 2
No,
choice.
He's number 2, 2A and 2B.
So half. He doesn't get the full slot. Sorry, Chris. You'll always be runner-up. No, I think he is a great Captain America. I just think the character is a little, like, dull at times.
But I think as an actor, he makes it better.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
A lot better. A lot better than it could be.
Just not enough for me to be like, oh my gosh, I love Chris Evans as Captain America.
Captain America also had, and this is another tribute. It's about the character, the actor doing the character, but Captain America is probably my favorite of the new Marvel in the Disney universe. Is probably my favorite series so far. Like Captain America, the First Avenger, and
is that your fantasy? If you could be any superhero?
I don't know about that, but Guardians of the Galaxy has a place in there. But there's only been one film, whereas there's been 2 Captain America films that I really enjoyed. And I can't really say that about the Iron Mans, although I love certain Iron Man. Well, there's some that I like better than others, and Thor, and I just don't feel that same way about most of the other ones. So yeah, it's just I thought those 2 films were both equally really good, and he's a big part. Yeah, and he's a big part of it. So number 1. Okay. My number 1 is and I will say this, by the way, that
your number 1 3.
No,
people?
it's not 3.
Just 1.
It's 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so, it's all the Guardians. No, I will say that something else telling before we go into our number 1 is I don't have any villains on my list. I thought about Loki. What that tells me is that while I love the Marvel movies, none of the villains have made such an impact, with the exception of maybe Loki. Yeah. At this point, that I'm like, oh my god, what a great villain! I look at The Dark Knight. And look at Heath Ledger as the Joker and say, oh, well, I mean, it's the Joker, I know, but he did such a great job. I can look at villains. Or Star Trek and Benedict Cumberbatch. Okay. He's not. I love Benedict, but not my favorite. Oh, I thought that was an amazing. But anyway, performance. but a villain. I love villains, and none of them stick out to me. Yeah, and I felt like I was kind of digging and Loki came up, and I wanted a villain on there for some diversity. Right, and I felt the same way. And I wanted like the Red Skull. I love the Red Skull in the comics and what he represents. He's so evil, and I thought Hugo Weaving was good, but he couldn't quite crack it for me. So I just want to say that as we go into our number 1s, that I don't have any villains on mine. Well, I guess I could preface that my number 1 is half villain. So, do you know where I'm going with that? I'm not entirely sure.
I've thrown you for a loop.
Half
in the
a
Marvel
villain.
universe.
In the Disney Marvel universe, tell that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
That is Famke Janssen as Jean Grey.
Really?
/ Phoenix. My
the Dark
number
Phoenix,
one.
The Dark Phoenix saga.
Yes. I think this film, I saw X-Men 1 when I was still younger and impressionable, and that was the first time that I got really into superhero films. And she was, going back to how there aren't a lot of female superheroes there represented on screen, and she was the main one. She was in this really interesting love triangle with Wolverine and Cyclops, but I love that she stood by her man, even though she always knew Wolverine was going to be into her. And then I hadn't read the comics, and I would remember just talking out loud to some friends and saying, how much I loved her. And then someone just ruined it for me and was like, she's going to turn evil and take over the world and then die. And I was like, what is going to happen? But I love that she has a really fascinating story that she turns super dark and
but
dominates the world.
You liked her performance was so good too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I was just enraptured. I thought Famke, she's very tall and engaging on screen, and just very beautiful, and just kind of it makes total sense that she would have all these guys into her.
Right.
And it's just very calm and centered as Jean Grey.
Interesting. Maybe this is point of view as a young boy. I didn't tend to look to the female superheroes. I like the teams, and I'm not I'm not apologizing. That was just my mindset.
There weren't a lot there.
No, but the X-Men Storm was there.
Who just came around to be like, she didn't do much. I feel like she was like, do we need a Storm? Halle Berry's
But in
here.
the comics, she did more. I mean, I just so but I can't say. Look, it's your list, and that's the fun of it. But I do think
it's just one person in each slot.
I just feel like I do feel that it didn't stick for me. I don't feel it the same way you do. I love the first 2 X-Men movies with her, and I really do.
Yeah.
But
I
don't.
I'll
don't
definitely say the third went off the rails, and I wasn't happy with that. And I remember leaving and being like, that was the film where she should have been, shown. It should have been the best film, and it was her opportunity to be the villain, and they messed it up. And I was like, you messed up my plot for my girl, for Famke. Like, she didn't get a shine.
And the Dark Phoenix saga was a really big X-Men storyline.
Yeah.
And they really messed. And I don't know that it wasn't her fault, but she was a part of it.
I don't blame her at all.
I didn't love her performance. I just didn't love her performance.
Well, the film as a whole, I don't think if her performance had suddenly been out of this world, I'd been like, oh, the film is different.
You're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they didn't give her much to do because they had her just standing. Right. She would stand next to Ian McKellen the whole time. And it was like he was running the ship, and then he'd just kind of point to her and be like, she's my powerful tool. And it's like, well, let her say something then. She
definitely had a big role through all the series.
The first one, and the second one.
But I couldn't help but feel that the X-Men were largely, if not Wolverine's movie number 1, they were also Xavier Magneto's role. So I think that it's I think it's just doesn't stick for me. But that's
I hope they bring back that character at some point. I don't know. I guess they're wrapping up the X-Men. If they haven't already brought her in.
I can't remember if she's in it or not.
I
feel like they recast.
In.
I think they recast her younger, but I have to check on that. I want to say
in Days of Future Past.
No, in
what's coming up?
Yeah, in Apocalypse.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
It's such an interesting character.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm looking forward to Apocalypse.
Female power.
I really am.
So your number one.
My number one is
not a girl.
It's not a girl.
And just one.
Just one. And this one is, I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I love its sense of humor. I love the space opera kind of thing. I think it's one of the things filed under Toy Story and Pickles. We like Guardians of the Galaxy. We love Guardians of the Galaxy. This is not Star-Lord. It's not Groot. It's not Rocket Raccoon. It's not our Gamora. It is Dave Bautista as Drax the Destroyer.
Oh, okay.
A part of it is expectations. When they talk about bringing a pro wrestler or an MMA guy, I kind of think, he's just going to be the big muscle and not going to have too much expression. He nailed Drax. He has some of the funniest lines ever to me in all the Marvel universe. There's the line. I'm not going to be able to quote these well, but somebody says something about things go over your head, and he's like, anything goes over my head, nothing gets over my head. I'll catch it. And
the
then
literal, not taking everything literally.
Right. And then when they're sitting around talking, planning, he's like, oh, sorry, I wasn't listening, and he the little things he does, like calling, not Thanos, but God, I'm forgetting his name, Lee Pace's character in Guardians of the Galaxy, the villain. He calls him to the planet. And he does funny things, and he's a lot. I mean, I know Peter Quill is the comedic heart in a lot of ways. He's the main character. He's the protagonist. I understand that. But Drax, to me, is the guy who's really funny, really, really funny. And Dave Bautista really pulled it off. I'm just not sure.
He was great. Yeah.
Yeah. I just loved him, and I think he doesn't get a lot of credit for what he brings, because people talk a lot about, obviously, Chris Pratt, who was wonderful. And I love Bradley Cooper's voice work as Rocky Raccoon. Amazing.
Couldn't tell it was him. Yeah, I knew it was him. I would try to think
when they announced
if
him.
It sounded like him.
When they announced him, I'm like, Bradley Cooper. But once I heard, I was like, wow, he's great. And even Vin Diesel, I Am Groot. Okay, but he was cool. But Dave Bautista, to me, gets this #1 ranking because I feel like he doesn't get enough credit, and he really brought it to that character.
That's a good, interesting choice, and unexpected as a #1.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised, but that's great. He made such an impression.
Yeah, I really.
And Guardians of the Galaxy was really represented on
our
list.
It was.
Which I don't. I mean,
I think I think they had the advantage of those characters not being so well known, so they could kind of make it their own. And
that's
maybe
going to stand out.
Right.
In a list
maybe
like this.
Maybe they had the advantage of doing that, and maybe that's why.
I think it is just such a great
Agree.
film. I mean,
Agree.
all of it.
Agree.
Music, script, all of it.
Yes, agree.
Well, that is our top 5. You can share your own top 5 superhero or villain performance in the Marvel Universe with us on Twitter @TheDisneyClick using the hashtag top5DisneyClick. And you can also follow us on Instagram @TheDisneyClick. Please follow away.
Okay. Here we go with the next one.
Buckle up for Disney Trivia.
Okay, so this week we're doing something a little different. I'm going to just share this story, I guess you could call it, some Disney history, little behind the scenes, and I'm calling it The War of the Ant Films. And this is the history between the little behind the scenes of the making of Ants and A Bug's Life.
This is Briers' jam here. She talks about this a lot, and really, this is very interesting. But this is something she really loves, and I think knows a lot about. So I'm going to sit back here. I have some questions. I know a little bit about.
No, please. I want you to chime in. Anytime I'm not filling in the gaps, or you have a question, please. I love questions.
Okay. Do I have to raise my hand?
Yeah, please raise your hand.
Here's an apple for you.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Enjoy. Because we know you won't eat a caramel apple. Here's an apple without caramel.
I will not eat a
we know that.
Caramel apple. It's all sounding wrong to me now.
So let's start us off with this.
Yeah.
And go
I
back
like it's a good campfire. I want people to tell this to their families around a campfire. That's my dream.
The films were both released in 1998, but the story goes back well before that. So
the story goes back. Let's see here. And I want to just quote my main source for this is a really great book that I recommend to anyone who's a Pixar fan or even just interested in learning more about Pixar. And it's called The Pixar Touch by David A. Price. And it is such a good book. It's very detailed, especially specifically when they were not even making CGI commercials yet and they were just selling computer software. I was like, I don't understand half these words, but still very, very interesting and informative. So it goes back even to 1994. So our main characters in the mix were Jeffrey Katzenberg. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Jeffrey Katzenberg. He used to work for Disney, and he later broke away and was a founding member of DreamWorks. And DreamWorks is DreamWorks SKG. And those are the initials of the three founders.
Katzenberg, Giffen.
Geffen.
Sorry, Geffen.
Geffen.
I'm thinking Griffin.
Wait, you're saying so many different things.
Geffen.
Yeah, who was the funds. He was the money provider.
He had a lot of money. They all had a lot of money. But Geffen had a lot of money.
The whole story was always that Steven Spielberg was the creative side. Katzenberg was kind of
the suit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
running thing, head of the table, I guess. And then Geffen was there to provide the funds. But so Katzenberg worked under Michael Eisner, who was CEO of Disney, and they actually worked together for 19 years. So they had a whole partnership, I think Katzenberg saw Eisner as his mentor and really took that relationship seriously. And so Eisner was the number one at Disney, and the number two was this man, Frank Wells. And Frank was actually in 1994 was in a very serious was in a accident, a helicopter crash. Did you know that? Is this news? Okay, I can't tell.
This is all
okay.
There's stuff that
setting the mood.
Stuff that I kind of knew, but I'd forgotten in the recesses of my brain. So okay.
So Frank Wells passed away in this accident while on a skiing trip in eastern Nevada, and Eisner took on his duties as well, took on his responsibilities. Katzenberg saw this, was hurt by this, and thought that he had been promised the number two spot.
Right.
And so then it became a whole he said, she said, and Katzenberg claims...
See you later, Disney, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, he met with the day after Wells died. He met with Eisner to ask for the position. So some people would see that. And Eisner told his lawyers he was offended by that. The man had just passed away, and here he is asking for his job. Eisner waited 4 months before letting him go. So he put some time in there to not make it look like it was so immediate. But so Katzenberg leaves Disney.
That is pretty cold I think the day after somebody passes away. That doesn't sound so wonderful.
Yeah, it's he's clearly...
If that's what happened.
That literally they met... Eisner is quoted as saying they met the day after this man's death, and Katzenberg saying that was supposed to be my spot. And Eisner saying, let's take a moment, let's sort it all out. He just passed away. His family's grieving. So it's very sudden.
Right.
And that shines a little bit onto the character of Katzenberg. That I think he is very driven, very ambitious, and maybe a little ruthless.
According to the reports of what you've read, or that's right. Okay.
Right.
Because there's a lot of documented stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but a lot of it,
several
is
sides
documented.
of the story, is my understanding. Mm-hmm. Right. So, okay.
So then pretty soon after he was let go, he, teamed up with Spielberg and Geffen and founded DreamWorks. And in their opening statements as a company, DreamWorks, in quotes, this was their first press conference, vowed to compete hard with Disney. So he was vocal about that.
Right. Enter John Lasseter.
Mm-hmm. So John Lasseter, for those people that aren't as familiar, was one of the founding members of Pixar and is really the creative heart behind Pixar.
Yeah. He's an amazing sounding man. I mean, we don't know him personally, but he really sounds like he's just the media reports and how they talk about him sounds like a nice guy, a man of the people, amazing imagination, creative, just everything you want. And you want somebody to be in the industry. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. Yeah, he was definitely, and he's the director of Toy Story and co-director of A Bug's Life, and just was always from the get-go on the ground floor of everything at Pixar. And he was, and is very, open about it, very good friends with Katzenberg. And
he even gave him on the Toy Story success, I heard he gave him a Mr. Potato Head in chocolate that said something like it was congratulations on your honorary Oscar, and they were that good of friends.
Wow.
That's my
understanding. Lasseter does give Katzenberg a lot of credit, is very open about the fact that while Katzenberg was still at Disney and had not had his whole falling out, he was one of the few people that was on board with Disney teaming up with Pixar. There were a lot of people pushing back and saying, we don't need this other studio. We don't need CGI yet. And Katzenberg was a, forward thinker. He was very ambitious and could see, this is good for Disney.
Which makes what comes next as even more of like a punch to the gut for Lasseter, I think. So go on. Sorry.
So as far back, so Toy Story came out in 1995, and as far back as the end of production of Toy Story, but as far back as 1995, they were already had to be working on their next film. And so they already had the idea and the concept of A Bug's Life, which in the beginning was just known as Bugs. I just can't imagine it. I don't know.
Ants, bugs.
Yeah, that would have
all
been
coming together, right?
So it's even documented. Lasseter was in town in Los Angeles on business, and he visited Jeffrey's office in L.A. And this is after Katzenberg no longer works for Disney.
Right.
So
After he
Lasseter
formed
has
up
no...
DreamWorks. DreamWorks had been formed at this point. Yes. So he went to
so
visit him
Lasseter's
there.
not worried. He's like, this is my friend. I want to visit him.
And he said, he's quoted as saying, like, maybe, looking back, maybe he said too much in that meeting, right?
Yeah.
So,
but he thought it was a friend-to-friend thing.
Sure.
And he excitedly told him about Bugs, as it was then. And he said upon reflection, he looks back and realizes that Katzenberg's biggest question, more than the plot or anything, was, when is this movie coming out? He was very concerned about when A Bug's Life was going to be coming out. And so in March of 1996, DreamWorks purchased this company PDI, which was to be their animation company. That was to help them transition into making CGI films. And it's just very important to note that PDI and Pixar were very, very close to each other in proximity and close to each other. There were a lot of friendships, a lot of crossover.
There was a lot of support for computer animation and computer animation film, and they were allies in everything. So
they were rooting for each other.
Yeah, it's almost
each one's victory was a victory for everyone.
It's almost more heartbreaking to see what drove a wedge here in between the two. So anyway, okay.
So very soon, DreamWorks announced, so it was originally their first film was going to be The Prince of Egypt, their first animated film, and then things got shuffled around, and it was announced that the first film that DreamWorks was going to make was called Ants.
No.
Yeah. Ants with a Z.
This is where I go dum dum.
Yeah, we need some music.
Okay.
Pause for dramatic music.
Right. Dum dum dum.
Or Rick's
Sorry,
vocalizations. No, it's nice and dramatic.
I'm available for voiceover people. All right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So at this point, he announces that their first film right out of the gate is a bug film.
And how did John Lasseter take this?
John Lasseter called Katzenberg friend to friend and said, literally, this is just the quote from the book. Jeffrey, how could you? So he's very, very offended or not offended, but just like, whoa, like too close to home. Like you could have made about anything. You could have made it about,
this isn't the only thing you have in development over there. So why this?
Why? And so it was at this point that Lasseter remembers Katzenberg beginning to talk about conspiracy theories and which Lasseter admits, I think there were some things that were done wrong to Katzenberg. There was the $100 million bonus that was taken away from him. I can see how that would make one a little upset. And I think when it comes down to it, I don't think Katzenberg was meaning to attack Pixar or even Lasseter. I think his aim was for Disney, and that was who he wanted to hit.
Right.
And so Lasseter, the Pixar approach to all of this was, we're going to make the best film, and the best film will win. We're not going to comment on it publicly. We're not going to say anything. We're not going to get defensive or go on the attack. We're just going to, buckle down and make a good movie. And I think, he's quoted as saying that he felt let down by Katzenberg. He was very hurt that his friend, someone who he counted as his friend, would do such a thing.
Let me ask you this: what from the DreamWorks camp, Katzenberg camp? What is his rationale as to what happened? What happened? Because there's three sides to every story, as they say, right? So what is the DreamWorks side saying?
So I don't know if he ever went on record and said why he was making a bug film. Because all I know more is behind the scenes what he's saying to his employees or how he's promising them bonuses. So there was a rumor, never confirmed, but that Katzenberg offered financial incentive to the PDI employees to hurry and have Ants ready before A Bug's Life so that it would be released. And they moved. So the date was supposed to be March of 1999. and they moved the release date of Ants to October 1998,
Right.
less than 2 months before A Bug's Life.
Right. In defense of Katzenberg and DreamWorks, I think there's friendship and sounds kind of shady, but it's a business and it would be the right thing to do to be the first one out, not considering the friendship, which I think it sounds, the way it's told, it sounds terrible. But if I were the studio head and I had no friendships tied in, I'd be racing to get it done to be the first one out.
But it just, I think from like an integrity standpoint, why make a film about bugs? It's like there's anything you can do in the world.
Integrity and Hollywood don't always go together.
Right, but I think the what I gleaned from this story is that Pixar really was like, okay, you know what? Forget everything else that's going on outside our doors. We can't control that. All we can control is making a good film. And from what I have read, Katzenberg was even quoted as saying he didn't care how good the movie was. All he cared about was that it came out first. So he just had this mentality of, and a very Hollywood mentality at that, of I want my film out first. I want it to be the one that people know. And it was very confusing to audiences at the time, especially probably to parents. They were like, why are there so many bug films? And Pixar, I mean, they were well known from Toy Story and they had the Disney name, but they were definitely
not what they are now.
Right.
But I think it's to you and I, it sounds horrible. And I think maybe this is why there's a lot of reasons why I'm not a big studio head, but I think you have to have a little bit of that thinking to get to where you are sometimes. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's how business works. So while we're like, oh, John Lasseter, and he worked so hard and it sounds terrible, it sounds like he might have stolen this, it's not coincidence. There's the other business side of it from the purely business perspective, that he did what was right for DreamWorks and DreamWorks Animation, and he did it.
Yeah.
And I don't like how it sounds like he killed a long-standing friendship.
I wonder if, like, upon reflection, if someone went to him now and said, would you still have done that? I mean, in the long term, is making one film that's basically, you know, copying the ideas of another studio just to rile up some interest in the film, just because people are like, oh, it's another bug film, we'll go see it. I mean, I don't know why film they make, they can push with the DreamWorks logo.
There's a lot of pressure. There was a lot of pressure at the time, since it's a brand new studio.
Yeah.
But if this were 10, 20 years into its development as a studio and things were doing okay, I'm not so sure this would have happened. But you need that something that makes you say, we're a player. DreamWorks is a player. And I think there was that added pressure on Katzenberg, I'm sure, to the point that maybe he wasn't, if this is how it happened, that maybe he wasn't thinking right. I'd like to believe that you go to Katzenberg now and he would say, I wouldn't have done it if, had I had another chance to do it. I would like to believe that. And I get John Lasseter. If this is how it happened, I completely get John Lasseter feeling like just stabbed in the back.
Yeah, another interesting thing that he said, John Lasseter said, if it had been a film about anything else, any other topic, or didn't, feel like a copycat or whatever, he would have shut down Pixar for the day and on their dime taken the employees to go see the movie, because he's supporting the art, just like going back to the PDI Pixar relationship. A win for any of the companies is a win for all of them. And so it just felt, it's like, come on, like it felt childish if you look at it. It's like a kid being like, that's my toy, I want to win so badly, I'm going to copy you. Right.
It does seem too coincidental how the timeline of everything.
It absolutely was Katzenberg. I mean, I think the story did originate, someone presented it to him, but I think he absolutely latched onto it and was like, a bug film? Perfect. That's what we need. Because I know that Pixar's doing one.
Right. So I think in the end, now not legacy-wise, because I think legacy, they have very different legacies, but I think financially they both did well.
Well, A Bug's Life dominated financially, though, or at least that's what I mean.
In the long run, but the box office was pretty good for Ants. It was a hit for DreamWorks.
I mean, I guess compared to their other films, it was a hit. Maybe they made $90 million domestically, and $152 million worldwide. Okay. A Bug's Life made $163 million domestically and more than double, $358 million worldwide. Sure. So I don't know if people can take that as, again, and I tried to step back and not have my bias. And so I was like, well, because I want to be like, Bug's Life wins. But you do have to say, okay, they have the Disney name which is a huge help, especially globally as well. People recognize that Disney brand.
Do you know the budgets of the two films? Or, I mean, because that
I don't.
Okay. I don't know if they were both the same. If
I
Ants
guess
was a little
they'd
more,
be-
Ants a little less. I don't
know. I would guess they'd be similar, if not Ants, maybe slightly more
Well,
because
they had more voice talent, right?
their voice talent.
Right.
Well, A Bug's Life, if you look at it, it's really funny, is a lot of popular sitcom actors from the day.
Right.
So it's like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, still on Seinfeld, Brad Garrett from Everybody Loves Raymond. I mean, on and on. It's a lot of
Right.
a lot of TV actors. It's just funny that that's how it lined up. And then Ants had Woody Allen, Sharon Stone, Jennifer Lopez, which people give credit to Katzenberg. His Rolodex of celebrity friends he could call on, I think, was very deep, and
Right.
he used that. I'm sure Spielberg might have made some
Right.
calls as well. I don't know.
Right.
So it's just an interesting story. I think
Yeah.
it would make a really interesting,
Yeah,
dramatic
I think so too.
movie.
Like an HBO movie. I could see it being
yeah,
like an HBO
yeah.
movie. Yeah, I'd obviously I'd tune in for that.
Yeah.
So, but that was
And I could see him
that's
like
nice.
Rushing offering bonuses if they can get the
Right.
and people sleeping at the office to get Ants done.
Right.
I wonder how the people that worked on Ants, if they're proud of it, or
There's got to be people out there.
I'd
you
love
don't hear
to do a
people
lot of
talk-
follow up
Right.
questions.
You don't hear people talking. I'd be most interested to see what Lasseter and Katzenberg would say now.
Mhm.
That would be interesting to me because
Yeah.
I think as we get older and have time to reflect on our choices we've made, I think that there's things I would do differently,
Mhm.
and it seems a possibility that maybe Katzenberg would do differently if that's how it happened. Once again, we don't truly know. There's documentation here and there, but
Mhm.
this is pieced together. This book is a
Right.
very you love
Mhm.
this book. What's
Yes,
the book called
The
again?
Pixar Touch
Yeah.
by David A. Price.
Okay.
Wanted
So
to make sure I got his
if you want
name
to
correct.
hear more, that's the book to pick
Yeah,
up. and-
great book.
Yeah.
And talk about Steve Jobs' involvement in Pixar,
Right,
which was
right.
really interesting as well. Yeah.
Cool.
And
So
Ed Catmull. A lot of good
okay.
characters.
Well, if you have any thoughts on that, let us know.
Yes, please.
Twitter.
If
the
you're an
Disney
Ants
Click.
fan, some people
Yeah.
like Ants.
Yes.
Disclaimer.
A lot of
Shocker.
people would say it's underrated. A lot of people, I don't think it's overrated because I think people don't look quite as fondly about it.
Mhm.
But a lot of people.
It's a lot more adult. Oh, no, Ants.
Ants? That's right. I was thinking
yeah.
of Bug's Life.
Oh, A
but
Bug's
yeah,
Life.
Bug's Life.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think
I love
it's,
A Bug's Life.
Yeah, I know you do.
I think it's
know you do.
underrated. Yeah.
Yeah. And
But Ants it's a lot more adult and
Yes.
like raunch. It's not for kids almost, which is just interesting.
I don't think people look back and they equate Ants with A Bug's Life, but they don't equate Ants on its own as much as maybe A Bug's
Mhm.
Life because it's in the Pixar list of things. So I think it's a lot more.
if we look at it that way, Katzenberg's plan worked because we're talking about Ants because he put it out in this dramatic fashion with A Bug's Life. So
Yeah. So,
the irony.
The irony. All right, let's go on to the next thing.
Next up, make your case.
So last but not least, we have a brief exploration of Disney parks attractions that were turned into movies. So not movies that were turned into attractions. So, I guess Song of the South and Splash Mountain, or what else is there? There's a lot of things. The Cinderella and a lot of the Fantasyland rides are perfect examples. These are the things such as the
Radiator Springs Racers.
Yep. So these are the things that are rides first, then movies. And I kind of want to do this a little bit chronologically, and we'll get into some upcoming things. But the first one, I saw this one a long time ago and didn't have a chance to go back and see it.
Whoa. Was
What's
that? I felt like a negative
No,
energy towards it. Oh, okay.
I saw
okay.
this, Tower of Terror.
Okay.
It was on, Tower
It
of
was
Terror.
on the
Wild World, or
the Wonderful World of Disney, the
right.
Sunday night movie.
Steve Guttenberg and
oh my gosh!
and,
did
Chris
Roy
Kirsten
Disney
Dunst.
did it, or who would host the Wonderful World of Disney? Was it when Roy was CEO or Eisner? Whoever it was, I was
Eisner.
like, what a
Eisner.
friendly man!
I think
and he's
Eisner.
talking to us.
I think it was Eisner when Eisner was.
He had the children
Yeah,
brainwashed because I bought it.
This was the first foray into doing this, and we love Tower of Terror here. Maybe
Love it.
Briers a little more than I, but I love it too. And it's a TV movie, so say what you will about it. I don't think it's fair to give it its expect such great things from it, and people don't refer back to it and say what a great movie it is or anything like that. Go ahead.
Oh no.
No, I say I do think the next movie, which was a feature release, was The Country Bears. Based
Wait,
on
are we done with Tower of
no.
Terror?
That's what I say.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was just gonna say. I think for myself, I was 7 or 8 when this movie came on TV. I remember the previews for it. I remember it was an event to sit and watch it. I hadn't been on Tower of Terror yet. It had been one that I'd been like wanting to go on, but was still scared. And we only went every other year. So I can say that the movie worked at what Disney probably wanted to do. I would guess their goal with the movie was to make kids re-amped up about the attraction. It was only a 3-year-old attraction. It was a very new attraction because we think now of Tower of Terror as just always being there.
Right.
And I think the goal of the movie, my guess would be would to make kids want to be really into it. And I remember seeing the movie and like the next time I was in the park thinking about the movie and being like, it all ties in. Like this is probably where it took place, the parts of the movie. So as a kid, the movie totally worked. And it's not a good movie. You know, It's not quality wise, you know, it's not a Spielberg movie.
But I will say it's the template for what they wanted to do in the future. And I think a lot of people don't love when they do this, but I happen to think when it's done right, it's a wonderful synergy to have those two things.
Oh, it made the ride seem 10 times more magic. It was already a terrifying, exciting ride, but I was like, now there's this whole story of this girl and her dad in the hotel. So I bought into it.
And an
it just
example
shows how gullible kids are or whatever.
Well, that's the lovely thing about kids' imagination. The idea of something not working, not that Tower of Terror worked that great, but
I would say it worked.
Okay. The Country Bears flopped miserably at the box office.
And that went to theaters?
That went to theaters.
Okay. And I never saw that
kids film, and it was a little bit different.
In 2002?
The Country Bears was 2002, correct. And it starred Christopher Walken, who won a Razzie, I believe, for his
that's always
his
a
performance,
good sign.
right?
And Haley Joel Osment did a voice.
He was the voice. Right. I mean, Chris Walken might have been nominated for a Razzie now. I can't remember all the Razzies, but that's just to say how bad this film was. And we don't need to spend too much time on this.
No.
Just to say that it's there. People try to forget it. I think it was a flop. It was budgeted $35 million. I think it ended up making something like 12 or 18 or something. It didn't do very well.
You can see Disney laying the groundwork and getting ideas, and then they have success.
Right. Which is what?
Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, 2003.
Which is arguably the best of the bunch, right?
I would challenge someone to try to say something else is better,
right?
Because it's like it speaks for itself. It's a $3.7 billion franchise.
Yeah.
And 2017, so what? 14 years after the original, we have another one coming out. It's insane. And it will probably be the best, highest grossing, because I think kids return because pirates are always going to sell, and if you've got Jack Sparrow there,
and some people,
there's so many elements working in favor of it.
So one thing somebody would argue is that they added Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow to the ride, and that curtain. I think at Disneyland
it doesn't always work. The Mist.
Yeah, the Mist.
I haven't seen it now.
But the point is they add it, and a lot of people didn't love that. They kind of felt like it was changing the ride to modern. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with it. I don't.
They didn't do it too much. They didn't change the ride, and they added the music.
Yeah, I will say that I try to see movies fairly early on, especially movies I want to hear about or buzzworthy movies. So I don't hear too much about it. I didn't get to see Pirates in the theater probably till a good month or so after it was out, and I'd heard so many good things. So when I went to see it, I liked it, but I was underwhelmed. I was expecting the best thing ever.
The
first one.
Oh my gosh.
The first one. I know.
It was the best
I heard
thing ever.
so much hype about it, and I liked it, but it wasn't as I didn't love it as much. I know. I liked it. I just saying that's where like the words, the little
you can't
birds
listen to people
too much, like great, and I got there. That said,
so good.
It showed me that they can get it right. They can do the attraction to a movie really well, and so,
I think they had the right people working on it, Jerry Bruckheimer, and the casting. Things like fell into place.
Right.
It felt like things were working.
Right. And the following three sequels were met with varying degrees of.
They're stretching their.
I think the last
successes.
I think the last one. Which one is it? On Stranger Tides is the 2011 one.
The worst.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't love that one at all.
I wanted my money back.
Yeah, and the other two, I think. Some people, that has a very mixed feeling, and people like them. Some people love them. Some people aren't into them. I don't think they have the general feeling of love that people have for the Dead Man's Chest. So that's interesting. But speaking of stinkers, number 4 is near and dear to my heart because if you've listened to this podcast before, the Haunted Mansion is the ultimate thing. I'm wearing a Haunted Mansion shirt right now as we speak.
This is true. I can vouch.
That's the thing that I desperately want to see done right. And they stuck Eddie Murphy and made it a comedy. it's not a comedy. It can have comedic elements. I love that, but there's a creepy.
It still needs to be scary.
Yeah, it's got to have a scare, and it wasn't scary.
And I remember seeing it in theaters because
so depressing.
I'd already seen Pirates, and you just think it's going to work, and it was boring.
Oh,
it was
God.
straight up boring,
right?
and just not. And I remember being hurt for the ride because it kind of in my mind messed up the ride for me a little bit.
Right.
At that, I was like, "You're ruining a really great ride." I felt defensive
and
of it.
They're supposedly still developing a new one, which I'm praying that they're going to do.
Yeah.
I really, really, Guillermo del Toro. I don't know if he's directing or writing, but talking about doing it. There was a talk of Ryan Gosling being in it or something. I mean, just this is all rumor and what
There's
have you.
There's a lot of
like.
Please,
films. Disney, please do Haunted Mansion right and develop it right. And but
do it right. Don't
but it's been a long time. I hope it's on their priority. I just feel like I'm afraid that as time goes on, we get further and further away from it happening. Is the problem? Well,
or closer to it happening.
It was announced.
If it's going to come out in 2030, we're only getting closer every day.
I know. But that's the biggest disappointment of the bunch because that's such a property ready for something.
Yeah.
And they just it's one of my absolute favorite rides, as we know. But
most recently
is Tomorrowland.
Yes.
I'm not sure if we've talked much about this, Briers.
I don't know if we have.
Not my favorite. I love Brad Bird. This completely missed the mark for me. It had some great pieces to it, but it just should have been so much more for me. And I like the idea of them trying to give a boost and give explanation to Tomorrowland. I like the concept they were trying. As you talk to people, the Tomorrowland in Disneyland is not people's favorite. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge of things with,
It's my favorite.
In Disneyland? Or Disney World, it's your favorite. But Disneyland, is it your favorite still there, too?
Out of all, I mean, it's always up there. It'd be like top 2.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just think it's
I love that area.
Yeah, I think I love
perpetually
Space.
stuck in the 80s.
Yeah,
in the best way.
I guess so. I don't. Not for me. I love Space Mountain. I enjoy Star Tours. Autotopia has a soft spot in my heart. But
Captain EO.
Yeah, it's not there anymore. But it's I like what they tried to do. I think they had the formula for success in having Brad Bird and all that sort of thing. But it was very disappointing to me. And that's the first one they did a whole land on, right? There's no other whole lands have been done.
Mm-hmm.
So boy, it just really kind of fell with a thud for me. Some cool spots, cool scenes in it, some cool pieces in it, but that's the best I can say about it.
I don't think I had struggled as much, but I definitely was let down. Right. I think I had really high hopes, but I will give the movie credit. I loved the message it was trying to send, and I've expressed this to people, and I think if you have a child 14, 13 and under, not yet a teenager, I think it's a great movie to watch with your kids and talk about what are they trying to say, what's the message, and see if kids are picking up. Because it's saying we live in a world where you turn on the news and it seems like everything's always going wrong, but what are people doing to fix it?
Right.
And it sends this message of like, we can change the world if we try. I don't know, it sends an optimist's message.
Yeah.
I can see how.
Hugh Laurie's commentary at the very end near the end of the movie, my eyes were glassing over. You're giving me the speech at the apex of the end of the movie, and I look over at my kids, and their eyes are glassing over. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? You're going to do that? You're gonna preach to us at the end of this movie? It's supposed to be so exciting."
Yeah.
I like the message they said, but
it wasn't executed. It was the execution.
It wasn't approached in the right way.
I almost want them to want to be like new try again.
Right.
I'll see the movie again.
Right.
Start over.
So something that's been announced recently with Dwayne The Rock Johnson's the Jungle Cruise movie that they're developing. Which,
it is with Dwayne. Oh, because there was a period where it was announced as a Tom Hanks and Tim Allen getting together in real life.
That must be in the past. I don't.
Sad.
I think
I was excited about.
It's
like Buzz and Woody.
I know, right? But
for nostalgia purposes.
This could be interesting. I think it's going to be much more in the vein of Pirates and sort of something that's taken seriously, and I think it could be cool. I don't know how excited I am about having a Jungle Cruise based movie, but I think he's so charismatic, and I think he can make this work, and hopefully they get a good script on it and could be exciting. There's a few others that they're talking about. We talked about the Haunted Mansion already, obviously, but they're I think it's off again. But there was a Matterhorn thing. I think that's
which
off.
started out as a a joke on Entourage on the
Right.
TV show that
Right.
the actor was like going out for a part in it. I think around the time
Right.
that all these films were being made, like Pirates. So they're like, let's just take a Disney ride. And then I think in 2011 it became slightly more serious, but
Right. Now
nothing
I
has
think
come of
it's, yeah.
that.
Something I'm looking forward to, if it happens, is Magic Kingdom. John Favreau has talked about working on them. It's
yes.
kind of like Night at
Mhm.
the Museum at Disneyland, which sounds like a Disneyland lover's dream.
But then it also sounds like something you could botch if
Right.
you don't do it. Like it's like a lot of pressure.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
Just like how now I think after Tomorrowland, I'm jaded when you take so much of the park and try to immortalize it.
right, and
But-
we'll see if they decide to do it after that. But I'm all for anything. If they throw things up against the wall, the hope is that they get a few of them right. And for me, it's worth the bombs or the missed efforts to see the things that really hit.
Oh, see, I would do less and
Yeah, but
just
they don't
try
necessarily
with-
get it right. But I'm sure they tried really hard on
Right,
a lot
but
of these, and they
and
didn't
they
hit.
haven't done too many because we've counted 5.
Yeah,
And
but you don't think they put proper development into Tomorrowland? I'm sure they developed that very well, and we got Tomorrowland. Haunted
Right.
Mansion, I don't know, not
right,
great. So
but it's
that
like
doesn't.
how
That's
many
no.
Tomorrowlands? So you would take 10 Tomorrowlands if we got another Pirates.
Oh, that's extreme. I don't. But I think you can. I think you can do 3.
But I don't
3
want
and get
more
1. That's
bad.
right.
I don't know.
I
I'm like-
agree.
I
I
think
agree.
I look at like the Pixar model. It's like
It doesn't spoil
less
Disneyland.
is more.
It doesn't spoil my experience at Disneyland seeing a bad
It doesn't
movie.
fully spoil it, but it does.
Really?
You
think
get
so?
defensive of you're like like even Tomorrowland. I was very protective of that area of the park, and they took it and made
See,
it weird.
I think I can separate the fact this is a movie trying to emulate this or be a part of this park in this physical park.
I think I can separate it.
I think I can separate it. So I'm
more just
worth
the
risk.
movies just still
It's
taints
fine.
it taints all of it.
I don't know. There's always Pixar still out there as well.
We'll
So,
always have
yeah.
Pixar.
And a couple things that may or may not have been, and I missed it, but I think there could be a good Expedition Everest, Space Mountain, or Big Thunder Mountain.
Oh, you're
something
just
based on
saying
those.
you would just like
I would
those.
I'd like to
Okay.
see those. I could be
So
interested in those.
I think there was also at one point announced Big Thunder Mountain.
Yeah, I
was
thought I heard
announced
something. Was that a TV show or was that going to be a movie?
as a frontier drama.
Okay.
Yeah, as a
Oh.
film.
Okay.
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, which
Right.
would be the first to be a movie
Right.
turned into a ride,
Right.
turned into a movie again.
Right.
And It's a Small World, which I don't know. I
They
don't
did a
know
web.
how
They did a
that
web. They did a
would
web series, a cartoon, but I don't.
translate.
Was
A
that
lot
what
of
is that what you've
dancing
heard? Have you
dolls.
heard them doing a Small World live action thing? Or
Yeah, I saw it as a very
I can't
faint
imagine
rumor. No, I saw it and was like, that seems so improbable
that-
and not needed.
that might be
Just
one
go
of
on
the
the
few Disney things like that I might
just
that I might
doesn't
that I might
need to
actually
be a
pass
movie.
on. Yeah, I might
Mhm.
just be like I have no interest whatsoever, and I have interest in a lot of these attractions being turned into movies. So
Mhm.
I guess the Country Bears would be. I love the Country Bears growing up, but I'm not sure that
But-
held much interest to me
Well,
as a movie.
it was
so
a weird film.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, anyway, if you have any
That's
ideas
that.
for attractions that should be movies, let us know. We
Mhm.
covered a bunch of them, but I'm
Or
always,
if you loved the Haunted Mansion,
yeah,
you thought Eddie Murphy killed it.
yeah.
Let us know.
I'd like to hear from that person for sure. I'm sure there's somebody out there.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure there's people who say
like
it's
ants,
underrated. I'm sure
so-
there's people who would say Haunted Mansion's underrated. I can't feel that way about it. It's as
No.
bad as advertised, and I've watched it recently with my kids. And
Oh,
it was
really?
not, yeah, because I wanted to.
Oh, I did want to note, Thurl Ravenscroft was not involved. He had other things going on. I was like, smart man.
Right.
Smart man. He dodged a bullet.
Right, very nice, very nice. So, all right, guys, that is it for the Disney Click. We hope you enjoyed our episode, and we'll see you next time.
Okay. Have a magical week. The Disney Click is a Meltdown Presents production, produced by Terri Lubaroff and Mason Booker. Audio engineer, the miracle worker, Mason Booker, with your hosts, Rick Lubaroff and Briers Newman. Our theme song, King of the Swingers, is performed by the Swing Ninjas and provided by freemusicarchive.org. Jazzy Frenchie is our break music and can be found on bensound.com. End credit music Dill Pickles is performed by the Heftone Banjo Orchestra and provided by freemusicarchive.org. Don't forget to tweet us at The Disney Click. You can also follow us on Instagram at The Disney Click. Use the hashtag Top5 Disney Click to share your own Top 5.